If you're a lover of the horror genre, there was at least one time in your life you've either asked someone for recommendations or wanted to see what goes on behind the scenes. Well, thankfully, there are tons of documentaries out there with just that kind of information. Before we begin, please give the video a like, share and subscribe to our channel at no cost to you. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create more content with you in mind. With that being said, I am your host Sarah, and here are 10 great horror documentaries. Enjoy. Number 1. In Search of Darkness 1 through 3. In Search of Darkness is a docuseries that made its debut in 2019 at Beyond Fest. The series currently has 3 parts and they explore horror films in varying eras. In Search of Darkness was written and directed by journalist David A. Weiner. Weiner's scholarly skills help bring in depth and insight to horror films throughout the 80s and beyond. The docuseries was met with universal praise, even being cited as essential viewing for horror fans and writers alike. In Search of Darkness features interviews from many icons of horror, or I should say interviews from scholars, performers, writers, directors, crew, you name it. They are the horror filmmakers and fans. In Search of Darkness actually was advertised as made by fans for fans. Part 1 delves into 80s horror, primarily the most impactful theatrical releases. Part 2 discusses the influential horror films from 1990 to 1994 in a similar manner, and Part 3 goes over video store classics voted on by the fans. In Search of Darkness is an epic docuseries trilogy, each part running over 4 hours, so it's kind of like watching the extended version of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The docuseries is a wonderful love letter to horror films and fans alike. Watch In Search of Darkness on Amazon. Number 2. Cursed Films 1 and 2. The Cursed Films docuseries debuted with positive reviews in 2020 on the popular horror streaming service Shudder. The series focuses on various iconic horror films and alleged curses that surround the film and its production. Currently there are 2 seasons and a total of 10 episodes. Each episode focuses on a single film and they run around 30 minutes each. Within each episode, the viewer is graced with interviews of cast and crew who share their experiences and input with whatever the alleged curse may be. The episode also includes some behind the scenes tidbits too. Critics and journalists also join the discourse as they go over their own thoughts on the curses. Even for a skeptic like me, some of these things are bizarre. But you know what they say, the truth is stranger than fiction. What writer and director Jay Keel of Cursed Films achieves is informative, engaging and even bone-chilling, but it's clearly designed to add to the mystic of these modern-day urban legends. Keel has quite a few documentaries under his belt, and he is primarily known for being a member of the long-running film Junk Podcast, which discusses films and their mythos in a light-hearted manner. You can see his influence on his Cursed Film series, where you can view it on Amazon and Shudder. Number 3. Pennywise, The Story of It. Pennywise, The Story of It was released in 2021 and chronicles the journey of how the It novel went from book to the small screen. Stephen King is arguably the most prolific modern horror authors of our time, as well as one of the best. One of his, if not the most popular books, is his quintessential 1985 novel It, which has had 2 adaptations, 1990s classic TV film miniseries starring Tim Curry as a titular character, Pennywise the Clown, which is what the documentary focuses on. The adaptation in 2017 and 2019, It Chapter 1 and 2, stars Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise. Both actors do a phenomenal job bringing the menace to life, while also making each iteration uniquely their own. Pennywise, The Story of It, has interviews with Stephen King as well as many of the filmmakers who brought the original miniseries to life. The more recent big screen adaptation definitely gives the audience more insight into Pennywise, as well as a plethora of new references to the behemoth novel, which is a staggering 1,150 pages. Wow. But the 1990s TV film really introduced Pennywise to a brand new audience and had limitations due to the medium. Pennywise has the power to invade your thoughts, manipulate reality, and shapeshift. While it isn't specifically stated in any of the films, it is a trans-dimensional being. Pennywise, the story of It, really delves how they push the envelope with their small screen iteration of It. Stream Pennywise on Amazon, Redbox, Plex, Sling, Fandango, Google, and YouTube. Number 4. History of Horror. Eli Roth's History of Horror debuted on the prolific horror streaming service Shudder in 2018. Renowned horror film director and Splat Pack member Eli Roth is most known for his film Cabin Fever from 2003 and the Hostel series, which is the first film that hit the silver screen in 2006. Roth presents History of Horror as a bit of a roundtable event with various horror filmmakers and film scholars. Eli Roth is the narrator and also participates in the conversation with the interviewees. Together they explore horror subgenres as well as common tropes. Each hour-long episode examines the impact of its topic, whether it's about slashers or body horror. Each episode also features interviews from some of the most influential and iconic people of said subject as well as films in said genre. So you will see Tom Savini, you will also see John Carpenter, and you will see Jamie Lee Curtis, all of her. I enjoy History of Horror's approach as it feels more laid back as Roth gets to basically shoot the shit with fellow filmmakers and industry insiders. Not to say that the production isn't professional and researched, but it's less formal and more inviting. Eli Roth has a lot of energy and is excited to be discussing horror films. That love and energy also brings out similar vibes from all his guests. You can stream the series on Shudder, AMC+, Philo, Sling, Amazon, YouTube, and Fandango. I need to find out if I'm saying Philo right, to be honest. It's not available in the UK, so I don't know. Philo? Number 5. Crystal Lake Memories. The miniseries Crystal Lake Memories, released in 2013, is a well-structured, behind-the-scenes documentary from each of the 12 individual Friday the 13th films, as well as the TV series. Kudos to Daniel Farrens for putting together a behemoth of a documentary. The original 1980s Friday the 13th boasts so many things like an iconic score, visceral low budget in cinematography, and innovative practical gore effects, thanks to the legendary gore wizard Tom Savini. Not to mention, the killer reveal was quite sharp. Every time I rewatch it, I find it moves slowly, but that really is the only biggest downside. Friday the 13th, which was initially written off as a Halloween knockoff, capitalising on its success, which was director Sean Cunningham's intent. It stood out thanks to all of the aforementioned elements plus the campground settings. The story is simple. Several camp counsellors resemble various character archetypes, are preparing Camp Crystal Lake for its reopening, in which it was dubbed Camp Blood. Around 20 years prior, a boy by the name of Jason Voorhees drowned in the lake because of neglectful campers who were engaging in the cardinal sin of premarital sex. These would be tropes that all the rest of the series would help solidify in the pantheon of 80s slasher films. Crystal Lake Memories is a stellar documentary, even if you aren't necessarily a fan of the Friday the 13th franchise. It also moves quickly in spite of its 6-hour and 40-minute runtime, since it is divided into 13 parts, 12 films and a TV series. They are roughly half an hour per chapter. It's easy to stop and start whenever you like. The template for this documentary I'd love to see with other long-running franchises. Crystal Lake Memories also boasts on an impressive 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, or Rotten Tomatoes, iconically making it the best reviewed Friday the 13th film by miles, drowning it over on Freevee, AMC+, Google Fandango and Amazon. If you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Now back to number 6. Number 6. Never Sleep Again. Never Sleep Again: The Elm Street Legacy is an award-winning documentary directed by Andrew Cash and Daniel Farrens. It was a straight-to-DVD release in 2010. It won Best in Show and Best Director DVD title at the Reaper Awards, presented by Home Media magazine. Never Sleep Again also has a 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, as well as an 8.5 on IMDb. As a film buff and a huge A Nightmare on Elm Street fan, it lived up to the series and is worthy of the film series' incredible legacy. Legendary horror filmmaker Wes Craven introduced us to the iconic 80s slasher villain, Freddy Krueger, in his 1984 classic horror film, A Nightmare on Elm Street. A group of teens have started to see the same horrendously burned man with razor blade gloves in their dreams. He stalks and attacks them in their nightmares, and they consequently wake up with injuries in the real world. After the brutal and bizarre murder of her best friend Tina, Nancy Thompson, played by the lovely Heather, sorry if I get this wrong, Langenkamp, starts uncovering the truth of murder, with the help of her boyfriend, played by the young wide-eyed Johnny Depp. Nancy discovers that the dream stalker Freddy Krueger was in fact a real person exacting the revenge on the children of those who murdered him. Never Sleep Again takes its viewers on an engaging journey through the making of all the 8 films. Our Nightmare on Elm Street series boils down to good versus evil. Wes Craven grew up in a fairly sheltered Catholic household. Catholic themes and iconography, while certainly are most prominent in the original film, are peppered throughout the franchise. In the lore, Freddy Krueger was once a mortal man, known as the Springwood Slasher. In A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, we learned he was born of a nun who was raped by men in the insane asylum. Oh, that's horrible. He was dubbed the bastard son of 1,000 maniacs. In A Nightmare of Elm Street 4, Dream Master, we learn the more souls he has, the more powerful he is. Part 3 and Freddy vs. Jason confirm that his power is also derived from being known and feared. In Freddy's Dead the Final Nightmare, it explains that Dream's gods granted Freddy his powers because he has a truly evil soul. You can't get rid of Freddy, and that's why his legacy is celebrated in Never Sleep Again. Even the super meta, surprisingly good New Nightmare portrays Freddy as an evil entity that exists even outside the celluloid. His powers may fluctuate, particularly over the domain of the dream world, but he will forever have a blended grasp on the hearts of horror fans. Don't sleep on Freddy, watch his definitive documentary over on YouTube, Google, Fandango and Amazon. Fly. That whole video was just going around my head. I need to go and close that back door. God damn. Number 7. His name was Jason. The phrase uttered by Miss Voorhees in the original Friday the 13th is also the name of another horror documentary about the infamous machete-wielding maniac. Jason Voorhees, his name was Jason, 30 Years of Friday the 13th, was released on Starz in 2009. The documentary runs 1 hour and 24 minutes, significantly shorter than Crystal Lake Memories. And that's okay. It's a bit more pedestrian, but the die-hard fans, or just horror fans in general, will enjoy it. His Name Was Jason director Daniel Ferrens also wrote Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, but more importantly produced and directed several horror film documentaries, such as the acclaimed aforementioned A Nightmare on Elm Street documentary, Never Sleep Again. His Name Is Jason is a brisk retrospective on the entirety of the Friday the 13th franchise. This documentary contains interviews from the cast, crew and fans about all the 12 films starring Jason Voorhees. So this includes the first 8 Friday the 13th installments during its Paramount Studio years. It also goes through the New Line Cinema years with Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X and one of my personal favourites, Freddy vs. Jason. That's my favourite as well. And of course, Jared Padalecki, sorry if I've pronounced that wrong, led a remake in 2009. His Name Was Jason is hosted by Gore Effects Maven Tom Savini, which is honestly pretty cool as he provides a certain insight and understanding into the work put into the carnage we so admire. Check it out on Fandango, Amazon, YouTube and Google. Number 8. Living with Chucky. 2022 Living with Chucky discusses the films and the lore of Chucky, the infamous killer doll who made his first appearance in the 1988 slasher films Child's Play. The original film sees notorious killer Charles Lee Ray, also known as the Lakeshore Strangler, on the run in the midst of a shootout with the cop. After being shot in the leg and his ride ditching him, he ducks out into a toy store. He's shot again fatally by the cop while in the toy store. Charles, having been taught voodoo, prays to the god Dembala and transfers his soul into one of the popular good guy dolls on the shelf. Charles, or now Chucky, in the doll form, is given as a birthday present to a young boy named Andy. The longer Chucky stays in the body of the doll, the more human he becomes. His soul will eventually be trapped in that body. Since Andy is the first person that Chucky let in on his secret, he has to transfer his soul into Andy's body. The core story for Child's Play 1 to 3 is Chucky trying to become Andy, while murdering everyone he can. All subsequent films and TV seasons see the lore expand new prominent characters, including and evolve even more around good guy dolls. For Living with Chucky, director Kyra Elise Gardner takes us through each Child Play Chucky film, with interviews from various cast, crew, and even celebrity fans of the franchise. Gardner has grown up with Chucky, as she didn't only grow up with Chucky, her father was the lead puppeteer. So the documentary is personal to her. Living with Chucky gets quite emotional by the end of it, and they talk about the bonds that are formed and the family that is created while working together on the films. Don Mancini, the architect and creator of the franchise, has wrote every single film in the franchise. He is also the showrunner for the hit TV series Chucky, and is the primary interviewee in Living with Chucky. Mancini lays out the inspiration for Chucky that includes the horror films of Brian De Palma, as well as his own fear of dolls in pop culture. He also discusses how the films have grown and evolved with time and how he's tried to infuse parts of himself into the series. Don Mancini is part of the LGBTQ community, and that representation grows more and more in the series, which only makes it better because everything thrives with diversity. Plus, making something personal often makes it more universal at the same time. Stream Living with Chucky on Amazon, Google, Philo, Pluto, Redbox, Freevee, Fandango, and YouTube. Loads to stream from. Number 9. Leviathan, the story of Hellraiser. Leviathan, the story of Hellraiser and Hellbound Hellraiser is a documentary chronicling the making of the first 2 Hellraiser films. 1987's Hellraiser from Clive Barker, who wrote the short story Hellbound Heart, is where the first 2 films are primarily adapted from. It is a twisted, atmospheric gorefest that definitely explores the concept of pleasure as it relates to pain. Hellraiser, which was also written and directed by Clive Barker, introduced audiences to the horror icon Pinhead, played by the scene-stealing Doug Bradley. The original film sees a group of Cenobites which are released when a special puzzle box is open to perform extremely disgusting acts that Pinhead will be a part of. But Pinhead becomes the icon of the franchise thanks to his striking look, his penetrating baritone voice, and a sizzling performance from Bradley. Leviathan includes interviews from many of the cast and crew, including Bradley. 2 key figures, Clive Barker himself and actress Ashley Lawrence, who portrayed Christy Cotton in several installments, did not want to provide any new footage for this feature. They were allegedly tired of talking about Hellraiser. Screenwriter Pete Atkins plays a prominent interviewee, as he has wrote Hellraiser 2 as well as 3 and 4. The Leviathan was not introduced until 1988's Hellraiser 2 Hellbound. The Leviathan is represented by a crystal-like object, and it's the ruler of the underworld. It actually creates Cenobites and has domain over them. It can literally make one relive past memories with its black beam of light. Leviathan, the story of Hellraiser, is a fairly boilerplate documentary, which is fine, especially if you are a fan of Hellraiser, although you will have to carve out time as it is 4 hours and 37 minutes long. Watch it on Pluto, AMC+, YouTube, Google, Fandango, Redbox and Amazon. Number 10. Scream Queen. Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street is a 2019 documentary that focuses on A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Particular its LGBTQ subtext, or most of us would say is blatantly homoerotic. A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 takes place 5 years after the events of the original, although it was released merely a year after the Part 1. The only returning character is the diabolical villain Freddy Krueger. A new family has moved into the iconic house once home to the badass final girl Nancy Thompson. Freddy Krueger is essentially trying to possess the new teen who currently lives there. Jesse Walsh, played by Mark Patton, is a much more effeminate lead than the standard slasher male. Scream Queen addresses the backlash the film had in the 80s, in which, thanks to the ultra-conservative Reagan-era politics, being gay was to be a pariah. Unfortunately, thanks to Trumpism, a lot of the homophobia is back around today. Regardless, this attitude forced actor Mark Patton to give up acting. Screenwriter David Chaskin denied writing the second installment of the popular franchise as a gay film, but later revealed it was meant to have homophobic subtext. Scream Queen is a fascinating examination of all the controversy surrounding the film, and getting to see the interviews from Patton and Chaskin themselves is insightful and even emotional. You can check it out on Tubi, Amazon, Plex, Pluto and Fandango, as well as Google and YouTube. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with all our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter, also known as X, at Studio Fat, or chat with us at Discord, links below. Make sure to check out our very own merch store at fatninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we greatly appreciate it. I have been your host, Sarah. Thank you again for being here. Take care. Have a beautiful day.